Hey guys, Chris the Ultimate Recycler. Come for a bit of a walk with me. I've been doing a lot of electronics and electrical repair work lately, and I do want my channel to be a large a cross-section of repairs and saving stuff from going to landfill and that sort of stuff. So with that in mind, I'm going to get something out of the carport. Oh, incidentally, I am working on a kitchen table restoration, so that will be coming up soon. But let's go into the carport, because the other thing I need to talk about is that I've committed to getting one box or something out of my emergency storage shed each week. And if I do that, which is great, but if that's all I do, that will keep me busy for quite a number of years and we'll never get stuff sorted out in this carport. So let's go and find something here to do. So we need to start getting, something out of here every week as well. And I just thought, well, something from on top. There's this old timber, I think it's like a carry cage for a cat or something. It came out of the barn at the farm. Let's take that back to the workshop and see what we can do with it. Now, as cute as this thing looks from first impressions, it's pretty bad. It's chipboard or particle board on the bottom that's been wet. It's all coming apart. Some of the slats are loose. It's got a bit of old rat-eaten lino in the bottom. All the metalwork's rusty. Oh, the hinges still work. So let's be honest, how many of you would throw this straight onto the bonfire or break it up and put in the bin, or just use the slats for kindling for your shed fire? I think many people would, but I want to try and save it. I don't think it'll be a big job, and I think it'll probably hold a bit of money in the shop. You don't see homemade timber crates very often. I guess it's like a transport crate for a cat. If it comes up really nice, I might give it to Jess. My daughter has a couple of cats, but we clearly need to replace the bottom. So let's start pulling it apart and see just how easy this project, or how difficult this project's going to be. Let's start by removing the old handle off the top, because that will allow us to turn it upside down and it'll sit flat on the workbench. I also might give the handle a bit of a buff up. It'll look a lot better. Now the top board looks like quite solid, nice timber, so I think that'll be fine. Hopefully we can just remove the bottom section and then fit a piece in without disturbing all the pickets around the edge of it. Okay, let's turn it over, and we need to remove this old chipboard. So I think we'll cut it up. I think I'll run the circular saw down that way and across this way, and then we can basically pull it out without disturbing and putting too much stress on all the pickets here around the side. Okay, that's successfully made a mess, but I think it will help us get it apart more easily. Okay, next step is to get these nails out. Now they're very rusty because the chipboard held moisture. It's rusted the nails, so to hammer them right through is probably going to split the ends of the timber. So I think I'll just start to hammer them just to raise the head and then snip them off, and I might be able to pull the remainder of the nail out, because I'd like to get them out without actually damaging these pieces of wood, because if I start replacing them, it's not going to have its nice rustic colour. So we'll see if we can get all those nails out next. So I've got it propped up on some pieces of wood, so hopefully we can start these nails without splitting the timber too much. Yeah, I think it's going to work. Oops, it's going to bend some of them. So it's working with most of them, and the nails are bending over as expected because there's no strength left in them. But now that I've got them started, I'll snip them off flush with the timber, or at least close. Now I can tap them a little bit further. and that should enable all the nails to be pulled out with minimum stress to the end of the timber. Yep, I think that's going to work pretty well. So I'm just going to work right around the whole thing and do that to all of the slats, or pickets, or whatever we're calling them. With the nails all removed, I have just sanded the inside of all these timbers just to make sure it's nice and flat. And now we can measure up and cut a board to fit in there. And I actually found a nice suitable vintage piece of timber that's almost the right size. I have to trim it down, and we'll measure off the top piece, and that'll give a nice rustic bottom piece that won't rot out like chipboard did. Let's square this timber up. Okay, I was going to say it fits like a glove, but probably more accurate is it fits like a glove with adjustable fingers. Not all these pickets or slats are the right length. They've obviously just been cut randomly, and also the top board has warped a little, so the corner ones are a little bit deeper than the middle ones on this far end anyway. So I think I'll just try and get the corner ones right. Actually, I think I should try and get it fairly square with the shortest of them, and then I can just trim all the others back to suit. I have changed my mind a little bit on that last theory. I've gone for the corner ones fairly flush. A lot of them are a little bit shorter, but it won't matter, and it's going to save me a lot of work. There are a couple that'll be proud that I'll have to trim back. But I went that way because on the top, they're all over the shop anyway. Some are short, some are a bit proud. So it's as long as it sits flat, and if I get the corners nice and flush, that will ensure that the door swings without binding on the ground as well. So that's what I'm going to do. Now I've gone for some nails here with flatheads. The ones that came out were bullet head nails, but the flathead ones I've already nailed some on this side. They cover over any small splits better. I know they're shiny. They won't take long to rust up. I don't like putting brand new shiny hardware on something that I'm trying to make look old. But it's really just a matter of getting it practical and useful, and it won't really matter having shiny nails. They'll dull off fairly quickly. So I'm just going to go around and nail all these in, and pretty much that's all we've got to do. We'll give it a clean up after that, perhaps blow some compressed air through it, maybe sand the top a little bit, and we'll buff up the metal pieces and then reinstall them with some other screws, and it should look the bee's knees. We might just give it a bit of a wipe over with furniture oil or something to neaten it up. There we go, that's got all the nails in. She's quite solid now. Door swings nicely. We will clean up this hardware as I mentioned, but as far as the box goes, it's quite solid now. It should keep the most ferocious cat safely locked away. So this crate's looking really good now. I've just given it a wash and it's just brought the grain out beautifully. You can tell it was a pine. It's still very light underneath where the handle was. It may have been stained. Pine just does tend to darken up from light over the years. But it's looking great. It's nice and solid. It's still a little damp, so I'm leaving it dry in the shed. It's important not to leave raw timber dry in the sun because it will warp. What actually happens is that the sun hits one side and heats it up and dries it quicker than the other side, and when it dries it shrinks and you end up with a big curl in it. So we'll leave that dry in the shed. I've taken the hardware off. I'm not going to worry about this latch. It's probably plated brass, so it looks clean enough. And I've just buffed up these other ones. They're a bit rust marked and stained, and they've lost some of their some of their plating, but I think that's kind of a nice look. It'll go with the rustic look. I've buffed the heads of the screws as well, and we'll just put a bit of paste wax over them so they don't rust again. So we'll just leave this dry. I don't know if I'm going to even bother wiping some stain or anything over it. I think it'll just be pretty good how it is. It'll look the part. If Jess or someone else wants it and they want to just give it a coat of even Estopol or something, probably just to seal it, I guess, so that it doesn't get smelly if a cat does have an accident in there. But I'll just leave it like this. I'll just put it back together once it dries. There we go, all done. The hardware looks great, actually. It really looks in fitting with a vintage cage. The timber looks awesome. The nice Art Deco hinges. I did have to put new wood screws in. They're slightly oversized in that part because the other screws weren't holding. The latch, as I said, I didn't have to worry about. So there we go. A very inviting prison for some poor unsuspecting moggy. We should go around and visit Jess and see what Billy Boy thinks of this. Okay, fun and games. We're around at Jess's place, and in the cage is Bill. Oh, look, he looks relaxed. He's drinking his coffee. Well, it's milk, but we call it coffee. Hey, Billy. He doesn't seem to mind the cage at all. I bet you, though, if we pick it up, he would have issues. Anyway, there you go. Our cat cage works, although it may indeed be a possum cage. I'm not sure. Let's see how we go lifting it. Oh, geez, Bill's heavy. Hey, Billy. Yeah, he seems pretty cool. He's just drinking his milk. Come on, Bill. There we go. Nice little home. Well, he hardly seems stressed, does he? Hey, Bill, turn around. That's not your best side. Anyway, he's come out and he's not stressed, so I think it's a success. So there you have it, guys. It's officially Billy approved. Great little cat cage. Jess didn't want it because she's already got a little carrier for the cats. She has another cat called Missy that if we had tried to put her in here, there would have been blood. So Bill was the best test pilot, but I'm pretty happy with how that came up. The bottom looks really good. It's nice and rustic. It's very solid. It's quite practical. And for what was probably rubbish in a lot of people's eyes, for really not much work and no expense, I think I'm going to put $50 on that in the shop, and I reckon it'll probably sell fairly quickly. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next video. Bye for now.